I think the number, there's a couple of main claims that they made in that brief. And then obviously you listened to a little bit of the hearing today. One of the points that they're trying to make is this misconduct of the prosecutor, Juan Martinez, and that they're saying puts the entire case in question. What do you think of that?
Well, the water's gotten very, very muddy because there are allegations against Martinez all over the map. But as far as affecting the jury's verdict, I don't think anything that they're talking about affected what went on in the jury deliberations room. I mean, there's arguments that he leaked a name to a blogger that he had a relationship with. Unless the jury read that and it affected their verdict, it doesn't matter. If he made inappropriate comments to a law clerk or a colleague, if that's true, let it be sorted out between the parties. But did those comments, if they were made, affect the jury decision? No, none of that happened around the jury. They are also claiming there was a runaway media circus. Well, maybe there was, but did that affect the jury verdict? Was the jury part of that? Were they watching it? Were they approached? Did it affect their decision? That is what matters. All that matters is what went on in that jury deliberation room. And I feel that they are using the prosecutor as fodder for claims to be heard at the appellate court. They're just hoping that there's one judge that will reverse what's already happened. I don't think that's going to work.
Do you think that, one of the things, like you said, okay, so there's all this different arguments about prosecutorial misconduct. Do you think the misconduct, the allegations that he may have had some kind of affair with a juror, could be really influential in this?
Now, let's rephrase that.
Okay.
You mean a juror that sat on the jury on the case and then went into deliberations and returned the verdict?
No, dismissed juror. A juror who was dismissed. Yep.
A juror who was dismissed. A juror that did not take part in the deliberations. That is the issue. If anything outside that courtroom affected the jury deliberations because of the state, then yes, I would consider it if I were on the appeals court. But everything else doesn't matter. None of it matters. All that matters is, did Jodi Arias get a fair trial? And if there was an error of any sort, did it affect the outcome of the case? That's all the appellate court is looking at. That's it. And so far, they haven't shown me a thing that warrants a reversal.
You covered this case pretty extensively when it happened, and there was a ton of evidence presented. That's something that came up a little bit in today's appeal, saying if there's an overwhelming amount of evidence. Would you say there was an overwhelming amount of evidence that she is guilty in this case?
Well, I guess if you include the fact that she actually took pictures of herself at the scene of the murder and then absent-mindedly put it in the washing machine where detectives found it, and they say, wow, that looks a lot like Jodi Arias's body, and then they find the same exact outfit in her clothes. She took pictures by accident during the murder, and it was on her digicam. Yes, I think there's plenty of evidence. What really pains me is what the family of Travis Alexander must be going through. I mean, will it ever end with Jodi Arias? Probably no. When the woman is 85 years old and she's still in the penitentiary, she's still going to be arguing that she's innocent. She'll probably still be having scamming money off guys that lovelorns that write her, planning marriages behind bars and trying to beat the system. It ain't going to work.
One of the other claims that she made, and I know we've heard this one before as well, is that this is part of a media circus. Do you think that that's a strong argument? It was covered pretty sensationally, but why doesn't that matter, do you think?
Whoa, wait a minute. Yes, it was covered. But what was sensational is what she did. And let's just not forget, while Arias is whining about an alleged media circus, she's the one setting up interviews and putting on makeup to appear on camera. And that's the same media circus she's now whining about. She courted the media, and now she's complaining that they showed up for a date. It's not going to work.
Would, do you think that journalists should learn anything from this case or do something differently in the future?
This is not about journalists. This is about the murder of Travis Alexander. Every time I hear this reported, there's nothing about the multiple stab wounds and the bullet wound to the head, leaving his body to decompose in his own shower. A young man with his life in front of him. She was angry. He had another date for a vacation, and it wasn't going to be her. And for once, somebody told Jodi Arias no, and she would not accept it. She murdered him. That's what this is about.
No, and that's exactly right. And I think we lose, not we, but I think the public sometimes loses the fact that she's facing all of this because a man is dead. And I know you touched on it already,
a man. It was someone's son, someone's brother. I have a son. I have a daughter. Can you imagine pouring your whole life, all your energy, all your love, all your money, all your time, your hopes, your dreams into that child, to have Jodi Arias murder them? No. That's what this case is about, and she is going to stay behind bars.
And it's like you said, she might just keep trying to play, different ways of getting out, and she might keep trying to get this attention. Big picture, any chance she gets off?
There's totally a chance. There's always a chance. As long as she can finagle a hearing in front of the judge, who knows what some wingnut judge may decide. You never know what's going to happen. Everybody thought O.J. Simpson would get convicted. He didn't. Everybody thought Robert Blake would get convicted. He didn't. Everybody thought Charles Manson would get the death penalty. He died practically of old age. So you never know what is going to happen in a court of law.
Wow, how does that make you, sitting on this and thinking back on this, I know you've seen this over and over. How does that kind of sink in for you right now?
It makes me feel bad. It makes me feel bad and uncertain because you don't know what an appellate court, especially they're so far removed from reality in their ivory tower, what they may do. You never know what a jury's going to do. They're a wild card. You don't know who you've put in the box, the jury box. And for someone that, like myself, that has prosecuted for so many years, that is a crime victim, it's very upsetting. The uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen, but sometimes you have to take a leap of faith and believe in something. And I believe in the system. When I'm disappointed, I'm deeply disappointed. But I believe that Jodi Arias murdered Travis Alexander. And I believe she will spend the rest of her life behind bars where she belongs.
I know you say you're disappointed, and I think one of the big questions comes up is, okay, Juan Martinez is facing all these prosecutorial misconduct claims. If that misconduct changes the outcome, or we have to do another trial, what are the options? What does the appeals court get to do in something like this?
Well, there's always a chance that the appellate court believes there was an unfair trial and that the jury's verdict was adversely affected by anything. Then Arias can get a new trial. When faced with the prospect of a retrial, very often prosecutors will plead it out cheap. I don't think that's going to happen here. I do not think there's going to be any trial. And if there is, God forbid, I think the prosecutors will take it right back to trial with another jury, and they also will convict because Jodi Arias is guilty.
And are there any other things in between other than a retrial?
They could do a new sentencing phase, but I don't think so, because if these allegations are true, it would have tainted the entire trial. So between a cheap plea or a retrial, those are pretty much the two possibilities.
Okay. if it does come down to something like that, I mean, you know, that's sort of the extreme scenario that it would be a retrial. But if it does come down to that, what would you say, you know, to the prosecutor in the case?
Well, there is this other issue. This is another wrinkle. If the appellate court decided that there was an unfair trial because of prosecutorial misconduct, sometimes the state is barred from retrial. It's completely reversed. She walks free. Again, that's Chicken Little, the sky is falling. That's not going to happen. I do not believe that's going to happen. But it is a remote possibility.
That's the double jeopardy issue we face, right?
Yes, she can't be retried. It would be reversed.
Wow.
That's if, big if, prosecutorial misconduct affected the case in such a way that the outcome of the jury deliberations would have been different but for that misconduct. I do not believe that's going to happen.
What do you think is the most important things, or what do you expect the judges to kind of focus on the most now that you've listened to a bit of today's hearings and big picture?
I really think that the appellate court's going to toss it all out on its ear, because the things that Arias is alleging through her defense team are things that happen outside of the courtroom and outside the jury deliberations. And unless it affected, for instance, the so-called media circus, unless that affected the jury and their deliberations, there's not going to be a reversal. You could have had Barnum and Bailey three-wing circus outside on the courthouse steps, but if the jury didn't see it, it's as if it didn't happen, as far as the appellate court's concerned. And you know, another thing, while I'm at it,
yeah,
I believe that people enjoy talking about Martinez and alleged misconduct because they think it's juicy. You know, what's the prize here is a true verdict, a verdict that speaks the truth. That's what we're looking at. And so people want to get sidetracked by speculating about Martinez did this and Martinez did that. All I care about is a true verdict. That this verdict was handed down by a jury that was not tainted in any way. And that's what I believe happened, and I think that the appellate court will agree.
There is a lot to think about on this one.
Well, a lot has been alleged. I'll agree with that, but I don't think there's a lot to think about. I think what they're arguing is about things that happen outside the jury's purview, hence it doesn't matter.
And the jury said that they didn't read any articles or have any outside influence, right?
Exactly. So that's going to be the issue. Everything the jury said will be picked apart to determine if they were in any way influenced. That's going to be the deciding factor in this case.
If the prosecutor knew things that the jury had talked about before deliberations, does that change things?
If the prosecutor knew things the jury talked about during deliberations, does that change the outcome? Is that your question?
Or before deliberations. Again, getting back to this juror number 3 who, you know, was dismissed, but maybe maintained a relationship with him after she was dismissed.
Unless it affects the jury's decision, it will have no bearing on this.
Well, there you go. What else? What else are you thinking about that I haven't asked you about?
Well, right now, as this plays out in front of an appellate court, there's only one person happy about it, and that's Jodi Arias. The fact that, once again, she's in the limelight, in the spotlight. That's what this has been about from the beginning, from the very first interview that she set up herself against the wishes of her defense team and powdered her nose and put on lipstick and smiled at the cameras. Now she's complaining about those cameras. Can you imagine the joy, the glee she must be experiencing behind bars right now? And it makes me wonder if she had that same glee, that same joy, a twisted satisfaction when she murdered Travis Alexander.
Wow.
I got to know his family. And I saw their suffering and the sacrifices they made, their jobs, leaving their families, leaving home, to be at the trial and be there for Travis, even in death. And now this. So that's quite the juxtaposition. Arias behind bars, gleeful, and his family waking up, dreading the day of this court hearing.
Absolutely. And now the dread they're probably feeling while they, wait for a final decision.
Exactly. I just hate it for them.